Hi there, I don't know if you're listening to this video on a quiet afternoon, or maybe while making yourself a warm cup of tea after dinner. But if you're in your 60s or beyond, I'd like to ask you for just a few minutes of your time to reflect on something that might seem small but actually matters a whole lot: the types of nuts you eat every day. A lot of people think, well, nuts are healthy, they're natural, full of nutrients, right? And yes, part of that is true. But after working with thousands of patients over 50, I've learned this the hard way. Not all nuts are friendly to the aging body. I had a patient, her name was Helen, 67 years old. She came to me feeling chronically tired, her memory was slipping, and digestion was off. When I reviewed her eating habits, one thing stood out: she ate peanuts every single day. Now, peanuts seem innocent enough, but they're known to carry something called aflatoxin, a toxin from mold that can sneak in and silently damage the liver and gut over time. Helen had no idea, and maybe you haven't heard of it either. So let me ask you to picture this. Imagine eating a handful of nuts every day, thinking you're doing something good for your health. But inside those nuts are compounds that increase your risk for kidney stones, joint inflammation, and even mess with your medications. What happens after 1 year? 5 years. But I'm not here just to warn you. I'm here to offer something better: hope. Because the truth is, there are nuts that act like little gifts from nature. Take almonds with their thin brown skins. They don't just give you calcium. They actually help move that calcium into your bones, where it belongs, instead of letting it build up in your arteries. Or walnuts, shaped like tiny brains, and coincidentally full of plant-based omega-3s that help protect your memory. Maybe even help you remember your grandchild's name a little quicker in the morning. Pistachios can help regulate blood pressure. Brazil nuts. They contain selenium, which slows down thyroid aging. And even the tiny chia or flax seeds can soften your stool, ease digestion. Little things that start to matter more than we realize as we age. I'm not asking you to become a nutritionist. I'm simply inviting you to tune into your body a little more. Ask yourself, what am I really feeding myself every day? Is this food quietly healing me? Or quietly harming me? Taking care of your health after 60 doesn't begin with a prescription. It begins with small, everyday choices. And today, that choice might start with the kinds of nuts you reach for and the ones you don't. Thank you for staying with me like an old friend. And if what I've shared here has helped you in some way, I truly hope you'll stick around for future videos, because I have so much more I want to talk to you about. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that as we get older, it feels like the body starts whispering to us? One morning, you wake up, and your joints feel sturdier than the day before. Another day, you're more tired, and you can't quite explain why. That's not weakness. That's your body talking to you. And if we listen, truly listen, and care for it with intention, then 60, 70, even 80 can still be some of the most vital, most fulfilling years of your life. And today, I want to share with you a tiny habit that can make a big difference: Brazil nuts. Now, they may not look like much, a little bigger than cashews, tough shell, creamy inside, but in the health world, we jokingly call them nature's selenium diamonds. I remember Judith, one of my patients, 67 years old. She said, "Doctor, I'm eating well, but I still feel sluggish. My skin's dry, my hair is thinning." A few tests later, we found she was low in selenium, a trace mineral that plays a big role in thyroid health, hormone balance, and immunity. Without selenium, your body feels like a car running on low oil. It still moves, but not smoothly. The beautiful thing is just 1 to 2 Brazil nuts a day is enough to meet your selenium needs. Not more, just that. Too much selenium isn't great either. But in moderation, it's like a little anti-aging gift from nature. Another patient of mine, Robert, 72 years old, once told me, "I thought nuts were just for snacking. Didn't know they could help my thyroid." We grew up thinking supplements only came in pill bottles. But nature, it has its own gentle, patient way of healing. So here's my invitation to you. Start adding 1 or 2 Brazil nuts to your daily routine, with your morning tea or maybe as a simple snack before bed. You won't feel the change overnight, but give it time. A few weeks in, you may notice you're less tired, sleeping deeper. Maybe your hair feels fuller, and maybe your mood feels just a bit lighter. Because growing older isn't about rushing. It's about slowing down, living deeper, and living well. So let me ask you, have you tried Brazil nuts before? If not, maybe now is the time a small gift to yourself each day. And trust me, your body will thank you for it. And one last thing. Do you remember the last time you slipped in the kitchen or bumped your knee on the corner of the table? Because next time, we'll talk about bones and how the smallest habits can keep them strong. I hope you'll be there with me. Once you're in your 60s and beyond, the little things, they're not so little anymore. I remember one of my patients, Mr. Frank, 72 years old, living alone in California. One day, he simply tried to reach for a spice jar on the top shelf, lost his balance, fell to the floor. The result, a broken hip. And the painful part wasn't just the fracture itself, it took him nearly 6 months to recover. Not just physically, but emotionally too. You see, when we're young, our bodies are like rubber bands, bendable, quick to bounce back. But after 60, every joint, every bone, every blood vessel starts speaking up, if we're willing to listen. And what I want to share with you today is something as simple as a small handful of almonds. Sounds trivial, right? But hear me out. Almonds can be one of your quietest, yet most loyal friends as you age. They're not just a healthy snack. They're actually an incredible source of natural calcium. Just a quarter cup, about 15 to 20 almonds, gives you nearly 100 mg of calcium. But here's the beautiful part. Almonds are also rich in magnesium, the key mineral that helps calcium get to the right place, your bones, instead of building up in your arteries. I've seen many patients over the years who drank their milk, took their calcium pills, and still ended up with osteoporosis. Why? Because they were missing magnesium the navigator calcium needs. Almonds, they've got both. And that's not all. Almonds are packed with vitamin E, a powerful antioxidant that supports your heart and your memory. A small but meaningful study from Tufts University showed that almonds might help slow cognitive decline in older adults. And I'll say this, if you ever forget where you left your keys, or your grandchild's name slips your mind now and then, this might be good news. Have you ever felt like your memory just isn't what it used to be? I get it. I'm not saying almonds are magic, but I've seen them help not overnight, but over time, if you're patient. One tip, try to eat almonds with the skin on that brownish layer, is full of flavonoids, which when combined with vitamin E, actually double the antioxidant effect. And if chewing is difficult, soak them overnight. They'll soften up easier on the teeth and easier to digest. At this stage of life, health isn't about big, dramatic changes. It's in the small choices: a glass of warm water in the morning, a few gentle stretches, and a handful of almonds. I've always believed growing older is inevitable, but growing weaker that we have some say in. And sometimes the difference lies in something as small as a nut. Thank you for listening. Stay with me. There's so much more to explore. Simple things, quiet things, but oh, so powerful. You know, your body has its own quiet way of asking for care, doesn't it? Some folks feel bloated for days on end. Others get the news that their cholesterol has been creeping up quietly. Have you ever experienced that? Today, I want to tell you about something small, so small it can fit on the tip of your finger, but powerful enough to gently ease some of the age-related issues many of us face. Flax seeds. A few years ago, I had a patient, Bill, 68. Lovely man. Always smiling, easygoing, but at every checkup, he'd quietly admit, "Doc, I'm chronically constipated. I feel like there's a brick in my stomach that just won't move." We tried everything, diet changes, more walking, even some medication. Then one day, I suggested, try adding a spoonful of ground flax seeds to your breakfast each day. 10 days later, he walked in beaming, "Doc, I can't believe it was that simple." Flax seeds, one of the best plant sources of omega-3 fatty acids, which help lower bad cholesterol and protect the heart. That's something many of us in our 60s and beyond should be thinking about. But they're also packed with soluble fiber, fantastic for anyone dealing with long-term constipation or cholesterol imbalances. I often tell my patients, better health isn't always in another pill. Sometimes it's in a spoonful of something nature gave us. Just one thing: flax seeds should be ground or soaked. Whole seeds pass through your system without giving you their full benefit. Personally, I like soaking them overnight and mixing them into oatmeal or yogurt in the morning. They disappear into whatever you're eating, no fuss. You might not notice the difference right away, but give it a week or two. You may feel lighter. And maybe, just maybe, your doctor will smile next time and say, "Hey, your cholesterol's looking better." Caring for your health in later years doesn't have to be complicated. Just consistent. Just kind. And sometimes all it takes is a spoonful of flax seeds, a quiet little gift to yourself every day. Have you ever walked into a room and forgotten why you went in there, or been mid-sentence and suddenly lost the next word? If you're nodding, you're not alone. Me too. And almost every patient over 60 I've spoken with has told me about moments like that, the small slips in memory. But here's something I always remind them, and I'll say it to you now: the brain, just like the body, needs daily nourishment. Today I want to talk about a little food with big brain benefits, and surprisingly, it can also help you sleep better. Walnuts. Or as one of my patients jokingly calls them, brain nuts. Because, well, they look like tiny brains, don't they? I want you to picture this. Every morning, you eat just a few walnut halves, about 7 to 9 little pieces. That's all. But inside those small nuts is an entire treasure chest of nutrients, specially made for the aging body. Walnuts are rich in plant-based omega-3s, specifically alpha-linolenic acid, ALA. It's a healthy fat that helps your brain fire, smoothly reduces inflammation, and keeps your thinking sharp and flexible. I once had a patient, Martha, 68 years old. She often misplaced things and said she just didn't sleep well anymore. When we looked at her diet, I suggested adding a small handful of walnuts to her afternoon snack. 6 weeks later, she came back and said, "Doctor, I feel clearer, and I sleep better too. I don't toss and turn like before." Now, was it only the walnuts? Maybe not, but I truly believe they played a part. What's special about walnuts is they also contain natural melatonin, the hormone that helps regulate sleep. And as you probably know, once we hit 50, our bodies start making less melatonin. That's why even just a few walnuts in the evening can support not only your memory, but your sleep as well. A little tip from me to you: store your walnuts in the fridge. The fats in them are delicate and can go rancid if they sit out too long, and when you eat them, chew slowly. Let your body really absorb the goodness in every bite. Now, I'm not here to tell you walnuts are some kind of miracle cure for memory loss or insomnia, but after decades of practicing medicine, I can tell you this with certainty. It's the small, consistent changes we make day after day that carry the most powerful healing effects. So if you're looking for one new habit to support your brain, your clarity, and your sleep, maybe start with a simple handful of walnuts each day. Nothing is too small when it's done with intention and consistency. And sometimes, a sharper mind really does begin with something as small as a walnut. Now, speaking of small things that make a big impact, let's talk about chia seeds. Yes, those tiny seeds people sometimes write off as just another health trend for the young crowd. But for me, and for many of my older patients, chia seeds are a real practical part of staying healthy every day. Have you ever woken up feeling heavy in your belly? Even though you didn't eat much, there's still that bloated, stuck feeling. Or maybe after your morning coffee, your stomach feels jittery and uncomfortable. Now imagine this instead. You start your day with a small glass of water mixed with just 1 spoonful of chia seeds soaked overnight. And your body begins the morning with a lightness it deserves. Chia seeds are packed with soluble fiber, which helps digestion, supports regular bowel movements, and eases chronic constipation, something so many folks over 60 silently struggle with. I remember Alan, a friend and patient 71 years old, once joked to me, "Doc, I'm not scared of heart problems or headaches. I'm scared of spending half the morning in the bathroom waiting for nothing." I suggested he try a warm glass of water with chia seeds taken 20 minutes before breakfast. 2 weeks later, he walked in with a quiet smile. "Doc, I feel like my gut gets a fresh start every morning now." And beyond digestion, chia seeds help balance blood sugar. That's especially important for anyone managing diabetes or prediabetes. Once soaked chia seeds form a soft gel, which slows down how fast sugar is absorbed after meals. They also help you feel fuller, longer, which is a huge help if you're trying to manage your weight without restrictive diets. I always tell my patients, healthy aging isn't about giving things up. It's about adding in the right things consistently and mindfully. 1 spoonful of chia seeds a day is one of those things. How do I use them? I soak a spoonful in half a cup of warm water overnight. In the morning, I drink it on an empty stomach. You can add a squeeze of lemon too, it makes it refreshing. We can't turn back the clock. But we can live more gently, more lightly, every single day. And sometimes that lightness starts with something as small as a glass of chia water in the morning. Have you tried it yet? If not, maybe today's a good time to start. Now let me shift gears a little and talk about another tiny habit this time. One that could quietly protect your heart vision and independence: pistachios. Yes, pistachios. Just a handful a day can become a powerful companion to your well-being as the years go on. One time I asked a patient, she was 72, "What's your biggest fear about getting older?" She didn't say heart disease or Alzheimer's or diabetes. She looked at me and said, "I'm afraid of not being able to do things for myself anymore. I'm afraid of losing my independence." And I understood exactly what she meant. So when I talk about pistachios, I'm not just talking about a snack. I'm talking about a small habit that helps you maintain stable blood pressure, protect your eyes, and hold on to that sense of self-agency we all value so deeply. Did you know that just 1 ounce of pistachios, about 49 nuts, contains nearly 300 milliliters of potassium? That's the mineral that helps balance sodium and lower blood pressure naturally. For older adults, high blood pressure isn't just a number. It's a real risk to the heart, the brain, the kidneys, and pistachios. They also contain lutein and zeaxanthin nutrients that protect your macula and help preserve your vision as you age. So if you're still reaching for chips or cookies out of habit, maybe give pistachios a try instead. Your heart, your eyes, and even your sense of control over your body will thank you. Another patient of mine, Mr. James 66, once told me that after just a few months of swapping his potato chips for unsalted pistachios, his blood pressure dropped a few points. But more importantly, he said something that really stuck with me. I feel like I have a say in my eating habits again, like, I'm not just relying on pills anymore. That to me is powerful. But what I love most about pistachios, it's how they quietly take care of your eyes. Inside each tiny nut, there's lutein and zeaxanthin, two powerful pigments that help protect your macula, the part of the eye that lets you see your grandchild's face, clearly read prescription labels, or recognize headlights at night. And there's something I truly appreciate. Pistachios are gentle on the teeth. Many older folks struggle with chewing because of dentures or sensitive teeth. Pistachios, compared to harder nuts, are much easier, no pain, no pressure. I often recommend my patients buy them in the shell. Why? Because shelling them slows you down. You enjoy each bite more mindfully. And perhaps most importantly, you're less likely to overeat. That's crucial when we're managing weight or blood sugar. Now look, I'm not claiming pistachios are a miracle cure, but I do believe this good health at this age doesn't come from big dramatic changes. It comes from small, steady choices made every day. And if today you're looking for one small act to show your body some love again, try starting with a handful of pistachios. Simple, gentle, but meaningful enough to make a difference. You ever notice how the most ordinary things in life can hold quiet power? When I was little, I remember my mother sitting on the porch slowly cracking sunflower seeds, one by one smiling to herself. Back then, I just thought it was something old people did. Now, decades later, after working with older adults for most of my life, I realize she was on to something. Sunflower seeds, tiny humble, are actually one of the richest natural sources of vitamin E. Vitamin E is a powerful antioxidant, like a little suit of armor for your cells, helping to fight aging from the inside out. But what I love most is how it supports nervous system health. For those of us over 60, memory reflexes, mental sharpness, they don't always work like they used to. Vitamin E isn't magic, but it's a quiet ally helping you stay clear, connected, steady. I remember a patient, Maggie 64, who came in one day and said, "Doc, I forget things all the time now. The other day, I was cooking and couldn't remember if I'd already salted the dish." We talked, and I encouraged her to add some brain-friendly foods, including sunflower seeds. A few months later, she came back with a lightness in her step. She said, "I'm not saying my memory's suddenly perfect, but I feel clearer, more upbeat every day." And really, that's enough. Just a small handful of sunflower seeds a day is plenty. The key is to go for the unsalted, dry-roasted kind, skip the heavily salted or oily ones. Personally, I love sprinkling them on my salads, mixing them into yogurt, or just slowly snacking on them in the afternoon while reading. There's something meditative about cracking each seed. A little sound, a little rhythm, a reminder to slow down. Have you ever just sat quietly and snacked on sunflower seeds while soft music played in the background? If not, I gently suggest you try. It's good for your body. But honestly, it's just as good for your soul. Taking care of yourself at this stage isn't about chasing something big. It's about choosing the simple, the gentle, the right, and doing it every single day. And sunflower seeds might just be one of those quiet, beautiful choices. What do you think? Now, let's talk about a nut that looks like a smooth little stone from a mountain stream. Rich, creamy, melt-in-your-mouth kind of taste. Sounds like the perfect gift from nature, right? Macadamia nuts. And I'll be honest, they taste amazing. There's something about them that's just comforting. But sometimes the most tempting things are also the ones we need to be a little more thoughtful about. One of my patients, Ted, 66, told me he was absolutely hooked on macadamia nuts. Every afternoon while watching TV, he'd munch through handful after handful. That buttery crunch, irresistible. But then came the blood test results. His LDL cholesterol had gone up significantly, and he'd gained almost 7 pounds in just 2 months. He thought it was just age catching up. But the truth was, sitting right in that bowl next to the remote. Here's what I had to tell him, and I want to say it to you too. Macadamia nuts are calorie-dense. Just a small handful packs as much energy as a full meal. That might be fine for someone who's young and highly active. But for us, after 50 with a slower metabolism, we need to be a bit more mindful. Also, they're hard. I've had several patients tell me, "Doc, just a few macadamias, and my jaws sore for the rest of the day." Some even chipped a tooth trying to bite into one. And here's something most people don't realize. Macadamia nuts go rancid easily, especially if not stored properly. Heat, humidity, and time can turn that tasty treat into something your body might not appreciate. So, what do I recommend? If you love them, keep loving them, but with awareness. Just a few. Eat them slowly. Savor them. And if possible, store them in the fridge. Skip the overly salted, oily versions. You know, I still believe that all foods, whether healthy or not, have a place in life. The issue isn't with the nut itself. It's with how we choose it and how often we use it. Sure, you might love the rich, buttery taste of macadamia nuts, but let's not pretend they can't silently affect your heart, your weight, or even your dental health if we're not paying attention. We've made it past the halfway point of life, and maybe now's the time to choose a little wiser. Not because we're scared, but because we respect our bodies more than ever. And sometimes that starts with something very small, eating a little less, slowing down, and becoming more mindful of what we put into our bodies. What do you think? Did you grow up eating peanut butter? I'd bet a lot of us did. A slice of warm toast, a thick smear of creamy peanut butter. It's practically part of the American childhood. But today, I want to look at that food not through a nostalgic lens, but with the cautious eyes of someone who's lived long enough to know that the things we're most familiar with aren't always the safest. Let me tell you about Mr. Carl, a 70-year-old retired schoolteacher from Arizona. He came to see me tired all the time, mild liver discomfort, and a few scattered allergy-like reactions. After running some tests and having a long talk, I asked him, "Do you eat peanuts often?" He laughed. "Oh, just about every day. I've loved peanut butter since I was a kid." Here's the thing. Peanuts, as innocent as they seem, carry a hidden risk that most folks don't realize: aflatoxin. It's a toxin produced by mold that can grow when peanuts are stored in damp or unsanitary conditions. And since peanuts grow underground, they're more likely to be contaminated than most other nuts. A younger body might filter some of that out. But as we age, the liver slows down, the immune system becomes more sensitive, and these toxins can quietly build up, causing liver inflammation, cell damage, and even increasing the risk of liver cancer over time. But it doesn't stop there. Peanuts also contain vitamin K, and here's where I really want you to pay attention, especially if you're on blood thinners like warfarin. Vitamin K can interfere with how those medications work. That means a higher risk of uncontrolled bleeding, or worse, blood clots, if the medication becomes less effective. And sadly, many people are never warned about this when they're prescribed the drug. Have you ever noticed how something so familiar suddenly feels not so safe anymore? I think aging is really just learning how to see life differently, more slowly, more deeply. Now, I'm not saying you need to cut peanuts out entirely, especially if you're otherwise healthy. But if you're over 60, have liver issues, or are on blood thinners, or just want to be proactive about your health, it might be time to pause and reconsider. There are so many other nuts out there that are healthier, safer, and gentler on your body. Because sometimes caring for ourselves isn't about choosing the tastier option. It's about choosing the kinder one for our body. And if you see that jar of peanut butter in your kitchen tomorrow, I hope you'll look at it differently, not with fear, but with awareness. Thank you for sitting with me today. Sometimes better health doesn't begin with a prescription. It starts with a conversation, an honest one. Like this. Now let's talk about something else. There are things in life that seem harmless. Some even seem luxurious or healthy. But if we don't understand them properly, those same little things can quietly create problems, especially once we're over 50. Today, I want to talk to you about a nut that many people consider a fancy ingredient, pine nuts. Now I get it. The flavor is nice, slightly sweet and buttery. It goes great on salads or blended into pesto. But have you ever heard of something called pine mouth? One of my patients, Helen, age 63, came to me worried. She said, "Doctor, lately, everything I eat tastes metallic. It's like I've got a penny in my mouth all the time. I thought maybe I had been poisoned or something." Turns out she had eaten some pre-packaged pine nuts just days before. And here's the thing. Some people have an odd reaction to pine nuts that causes a taste disturbance called pine mouth. It can last a week or even longer. Everything tastes bitter, sour, or metallic. And suddenly, food becomes unpleasant, even stressful. That small joy of eating gone. But that's not all. While it's not very common, pine nuts can also cause mild eye inflammation in people who are sensitive, especially if consumed often or in large amounts. I've seen patients with red, tired eyes only to find out that the root cause was something as unexpected as pine nuts. And for those on blood pressure medication, pine nuts may interact in ways that make it harder for your body to regulate blood flow, or they might interfere with the medicine's effectiveness altogether. Now look, I'm not here to say pine nuts are bad, or that you should eliminate them completely. But as we age, our bodies become more sensitive, more finely tuned to even the smallest changes. That's why I always tell my patients, be moderate, be mindful, especially with foods that are exotic, unfamiliar, or overhyped as superfoods, because at this stage of life, taking care of our health isn't about asking, should I eat this or not? It's about asking, how can I eat this in a way that my body thanks me for it? And if today you've learned just one new thing about pine nuts, then I'd say that's a small but meaningful step forward in protecting your health, your joy, and your independence as you age. Don't you think so? I don't know about you, but the older I get, the more I realize it's the little things we repeat every day that quietly shape our health and our life. A glass of water first thing in the morning. That wince in your knee every time you get up from a chair. A handful of nuts you reach for while watching the morning news. These things may seem small, even trivial. But to me, someone who's worked with people over 50 for more than 30 years, they're like bricks. Quiet little bricks we stack every day, building the foundation of how we age. And today, I just want to emphasize one simple truth. Not every nut is ideal for older adults. I know that might surprise you. For years, we've been told that nuts are golden packed with nutrients, good for the heart, portable, convenient. And yes, that's absolutely true, if you choose the right types and eat them in the right amounts. But let me tell you a story. One of my patients, Mr. Peter 74, loved cashews and peanuts. Every afternoon he'd eat a handful after lunch. He thought of it as his healthy snack. But then he started having joint pain and his blood sugar crept up. When we looked closer, it turned out that those healthy choices were actually stressing his body. The nuts he was eating were high in starch, possibly contaminated with aflatoxins, and even interfered with his medications. You see, a small choice, but with big consequences. But don't get me wrong, I'm not here to scare you away from the foods you enjoy. I'm here to remind you that we always have the power to start again, to choose again. And sometimes that change can begin with something very small. If you swap your daily peanuts for a handful of almonds, if you reach for walnuts instead of cashews, if you start reading nutrition labels and paying attention to how your body feels after eating, you're already taking a small, meaningful step toward better health. No need for more pills, no need for extreme diets, just quiet, consistent adjustments. Some nuts like almonds, walnuts, pistachios, or Brazil nuts, when eaten in moderation, can actually help ease joint inflammation, protect your heart support memory, and aid digestion as you age. I once told a patient, you don't need to change your entire life in a week, but let each day be a gentle reset for your body, your health, and the kind of aging you want. Do you agree? Aging is inevitable. But aging with clarity, with confidence, with respect for your body, that's something you can absolutely control. And if today you're looking for a place to begin, start with your nuts. Start with that small, quiet choice that might just change how you feel in your own body. Thank you for staying with me all the way to the end. This video may not change your life overnight, but if it plants a tiny seed of awareness, that to me is everything. My friend, if you're still here, I have a feeling you're one of the rare few who don't just want to live long, you want to live well. You already understand health at this stage of life isn't about fancy supplements or trendy treatments. It's found in the small daily habits, in the choices we make one by one. What to eat, how to rest. Whether we're treating our body with care or just getting by. I truly believe once we reach our 60s and beyond, health is no longer something we take for granted. It becomes a path we walk with intention, with knowledge, with patience, a handful of good nuts, a good night's sleep, a slow walk each morning. These things won't make you feel 20 again, but they will help you feel lighter, steadier, and more present each day. This YouTube channel where I get to speak with you isn't about telling you how to live. It's about sharing stories, real lessons from real people, things I've witnessed and learned over 30+ years as a doctor. I'm not making these videos to chase views. I make them for people like you, people who've lived through half a lifetime, and deserve a safe, gentle space to reflect, to learn, and maybe to begin again. So if what I shared today made you nod, if it felt like you were having a conversation with someone who really understands you, then I'd be honored if you'd hit that subscribe button. Because I have so much more I want to share with you. Not 10-step miracle tips, not overnight fixes, but honest, thoughtful perspectives, simple ideas that remind you, you are still in charge of your health. You can still change things no matter what age you are. So, hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and most importantly, come back. Because I believe in the next video we'll keep learning, keep sharing, and keep walking this road together. Thank you for listening. I'm your doctor, and I'll see you in the next video.